Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Tech Talk number 165. If anybody knows that this is different than 165, let me know, because it could be 166. I think last week was 164, but I kind of lose. Hey, Chuck, number one, this week I lose track sometimes, and I already changed the board over to say 165, so I'm going to share that with you. Hey, Steve. Good job for checking in. Good to see you over at the racetrack the other day. But I wanted to share with you guys that we're going to catch up on a few things. Hey, David. First, I want to say before we get too far into this is I'm looking forward to seeing how my friends and my close folks that I care about in Florida and the path of the hurricane. I wanted to give a shout out for those folks. I hope everybody gets safe. I hope you save your, hey Bryce, I hope you save your property and possessions. But the main thing that's important, hey Mark, is your life. And you know, the good Lord raised us all in His image, and we're all brothers in this interest we have in hot rods and high performance engines, and hopefully internal combustion engines that we all share this passion for. So we care about each other. If we don't, we should. Matt, Ed, David, Joe, Steve, I just want to tell you guys that if you are in the path of the hurricane, man, I'm going to give you a prayer tonight. I know it's coming. I know it's going to be pretty tough, but they always prepare us for the worst, and we never know. It might just be a little breeze and some bad rain, or it might blow the house down literally. So I just wanted to say a quick shout out for the potential for our friends that are in the path of destruction, and mostly for your health. And I wanted to tell you about that. Also, this weekend, if you're loose, it's going to be fun to watch the countdown race at St. Louis this weekend. Pro Stock motorcycles are back. I follow. It's something that Jackie and I spent our life on. Probably 25, 30 years we spent our life on the Pro Stock motorcycle category, so I don't participate. I help out a few folks, and I love watching what happens with that group. It's going to be very interesting. Points have tightened up. Performance has tightened up. The rules have been juggling around. The rumors are running crazy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring. One thing about I'm noticing that St. Louis looks like it's going to be in the 70s. Looks like it's going to be pretty dry air, and the correction factor, instead of being the normal 105, 106, hot stuff over there, it's going to be cool and dry and hopefully a high barometer. So the Pro Stock cars and the Pro Stock motorcycles will have more atmosphere shoved into the cylinders, which is my specialty and what I'm interested in, and we should be able to see more horsepower. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and now I'm going to switch over to the board. Yeah, let me do that right quick. But I just wanted to tell you guys hello. Thank you for tuning in. Tech Talk number 165. All right, let's flip over now. There we go. Tech Talk number 165. In case you wondered, you guys, this is my new project. It's called Blue 50. It's a decommissioned police bike. I've got it stripped down. I know it looks the same as it did last week. Most of it does, but we've got some new developments that I'm going to share with you. And it's all about engines, y'all. Listen, it ain't all about a Harley. I know this is a Harley, and I know I work on them and stuff, but I just wanted you to know that this is some really interesting stuff. I'll give you some numbers just so you know. I think this is Tech Talk 165. I'm all about high compression. I like high compression. I like having to run a little bit of octane. A couple of my favorite words are octane. I really like those, and we're gonna have some fun with that. Oh, and speaking of that, everybody asked me about my socks. I want to tell you, I have on my high compression socks this week. Nothing fancy, but we love high compression, or at least we love cylinder pressure. But today I got on high compression socks. So if you want to have a little chuckle with me, there's one right there, because I think that's pretty funny. I did want to give a shout out. I said earlier about the potential victims in the hurricane. Quit wiggling, please. Thank you. I wanted to tell you about the St. Louis contest coming up. It's going to be fun. And I also wanted to tell you about some projects I've had. About 4 years, I've personally had some pretty cool projects Wow, 0.998 today, Kevin. Wow, very near St. Louis. Yes, you are. Maybe it'll warm up a little bit. It's hard for those guys to go outside of their comfort zone and run below 104, 105 corrections. And for you guys that do dyno work, you understand the correction factors. 1 to 1 is like 1.00, I believe, on an SAE standard is a 2992 barometer, 60-degree dry air, and it all corrects back to zero. So in that configuration, it would make more horsepower uncorrected than it would corrected if you were below 1.00 correction factor. But let me go back and tell you, look, back early, my first Harley project that I learned so much on was called Farm Bike. I want to tell you real quick about it. It has its own Facebook page. So if you want to jot a note down, you can go look at I think it's called the Life and Times or the Adventures of Farm Bike. It was pretty popular on Facebook because I was running it every weekend. It was an old 2003 Road King I bought for a really good price. It had 54,000 miles on it. We bored the cylinders and put a 98 cubic inch kit on the stock 88 that was in it. We put a D&D pipe on it. We put a couple of different cams we were designing on it and made it make a bunch of power. We went from 70 horsepower to 135 horsepower with that little baby 98. And people say, well, there's no way that 98 inch twin cam made over 130 horsepower, but I ran 1350s with it when I got it. We did a pipe and a tune and ran 12s, and then we did a piston kit and ported the heads. Ron put big valves in it. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But anyway, we kept pumping it up. We got 30, and we got 30. We ended up adding about 60 horsepower to that little 70 horse 88 with a piston kit. But it was a boring kit, and we never had the cases apart, and we never had to crank out. And I ran 1080s with that bike with the stock swing arm and the stock belt. I ended up breaking the belt eventually because the belt had 54,000 miles on it, but it will go in the tens. Then that was fun. I sold it pretty quick. Then I said, well, that was fast and fun, so I decided to build Bagzilla, which ended up being the fastest Harley. It was a 2013 that I had, 2013 twin cam, took it all apart, painted it red, took a set of 145s S&S cases, put a 4.425 cylinders on a 145, did not run the B3 heads, ran B2 heads. That won't fit a stock bike. So we put a T126 crank in it, which was only 4.1 stroke. That shortened the engine, put short rods in it. We milled about 200 off the bottom of the cylinders. We let the heads down so that that 135 cubic inch engine ended up being the same height as a stock 103 that was already in that 2013 twin cam. We got that engine up to 195 horsepower, and I was able to run 930s with it, with a hand clutch and air shifter. And several people from on down, Iron Man, Mike Beelan, several guys rode it and ran 940s, 950s. The best I ever ran with it was a few 930s, but that bike ended up being really fast with a stock transmission and stock primary. And it taught me so much, and then I sold it, and it's still running today, still fast. Then I built Buck. It was another 2003 twin cam that I decided to build that I had a spare 126 sitting around to build it. The thing I'm going to try and bore you with here is it ended up going in the nines as well. Foot shifting, no air shifter, and it was a short wheelbase 2-over arm. This one was short wheelbase 2-over arm, but they all had stock front ends on them. No triple tree tricks, no fork tricks, just shortened up the forks a little bit and tied the front end down where it wouldn't extend and then do a wheelie. Tried to keep the front end down. That still was a problem. But here's what the common denominator was. Farm bike was odd. I don't think anybody wanted that kit. They didn't want us to build that for them because it didn't have any torque. It was down at 3,000 RPM. It didn't have much power at all. We had to wait till 4,000, 5,000 RPM before it could come on the pipe. I turned this one 7,000 RPM, the stock 88 inch in with the stock 88 crank, and then we put some really nice springs and titanium valves in it and ended up running it to 7,000 easy, 7,500 easy. Bagzilla, B2 heads, big giant titanium valves, big RPM, turned it 8,000 RPM. Buck, I turned it 7,500. The guy that bought it from me just ran 10 ones with it this past weekend. I was very proud of him. Best I ever ran was 990s with it. Here's the common denominator is you can't buy a 126, so we're not building another Buck. It's hard. And if somebody asked me how much would it cost to duplicate BikeZilla, I said the price is too big for me to try. Farm bike, nobody wants one, didn't have any torque. So when I say that, people that watch us on the internet and all the Harley stuff, they want a torque curve that looks really nice. You know, we always talk about the torque curve, and that's what we do. But if you want to go fast, we end up running a horsepower curve that looks like this. We want to run over here down the drag strip. We go high RPM, we shift, high RPM, we shift, high RPM, we shift. That's the drag strip. All of these I ran at the drag strip. On the highway, it's more fun to be over here. It's more fun to run below 5,000 RPM. It's way more fun. I've told you this 100 times, and this is where we want to run. This is from 2,000 to 4,000. I don't know if you can see this weak little marker I've got here, but that's another day, another story. But Blue 5.0, it's going to be a different beast. It's got high compression pistons. It's got a 4.6 bore. It's the biggest one I've done yet. It's got a short crank in it. It's got a stock 107 crank in it. And I'm going to tell you about the cylinder heads here. And I got to say this, and please, please, please understand. These heads are not for sale, and I don't think Frankenstein or Moonshine is going to sell these. I want you to know that this is an experiment, an experimental project, just like Farm Bike, just like BikeZilla, just like Buck. This is not for us to purchase. This RPM range is going to be bizarre. I'm going to turn this 8,000 RPM. These heads may be available in 2023, but Moonshine boys are not interested in selling these, and why? They do sell a beautiful Frankenstein head. They sell their version. It's an MHP monster head. They sell their version of it, but it has the Star Racing plus 2.5 intakes and the plus 2.5 exhaust, and it's got titanium intakes and stainless exhaust. That is for sale. Moonshine will build you a 131, a 134, a 139, a 143. They'll build you all those engines, 135s, with a set of the Frankenstein done monster heads with the plus 2.5s, with stock seats. These heads have big seats put in them. These heads have big seats, and these have plus 4 titanium intakes. It has plus 3 titanium exhaust. And these heads are going to move a lot of air. I'm talking about move a lot of air. I don't really care or talk about flow numbers. I just going to demand a bunch of movement based on this 4.6 bore and the 4.3 stroke. And when this piston goes down at 7,000 RPM, it's going to create a depression in the cylinders. It's going to be incredible. Moonshine made these billet cylinders for me as well. I've showed you these before. And what I wanted to share with you about these new heads, they're, like I said, whenever they decide they want to sell these, it's going to be a while because the valves are hard to get. Those plus 4s are hard to get. And I want to also share with you, this is the first time in my career in 35 years that I've used a set of cylinder heads that did not come from Star Racing. Listen to me, I'm going to say it again. Ron Reese, the boys and girls at Star Racing have supplied all the stuff I've ever used. This is a huge experiment for me. I did give my input as much as I could on what I wanted here, but there's only 2 sets of these heads available. I own a set. They're not available. There are 2 sets of these heads in existence. The good news is Moonshine owns the CNC program to get this done. This will be obtainable one day if it ends up being a successful project. But look, this is such an experiment. I want to show you how big the chambers are. And please understand this piston is 4.6 bore. And when you put it in here, I want you to see how big this is. This piston's big, right? Watch this. This is a big chamber, and this is a big dome. And I'm going to try and run the highest static compression ratio I can. I have not figured it yet, but it will be somewhere around 14-1. It's not going to be able to run on 91 octane, 93 octane. It will be a combination of some 110 mixed with some 93, and it will be the lowest octane I can run, but it won't be 93 unless I'm turning it really high RPM. But the cubic inches of this engine is going to create a bunch of low end power. Even if the ports are big, even if the throttle body's a 70 millimeter, even though the intake manifold has a nice rectangular shape to it. There's the rectangle shape of the intake. I know you've seen these on the internet before, but these are giant valves. These are +4 titanium. They're not available yet. I'm just sharing that this is something that could come down the road. The Star Racing valve train is available, and Jamie at Moonshine and the boys over there, Nick and Aaron, those guys sell these heads with 2.5 millimeter over valves, not these giant valves. The trick to this deal is going to be a little bit unusual to see. This is not my idea, but it's a really cool combination that's been done before. It's not the first time, but it's a great idea. As we milled the whole exhaust port off, the whole thing, re-drill the holes, got offset flanges that a friend of mine has helped me with over there. We've got some fellas that have helped me through my career that have come up with some neat stuff like this with the offset flanges. Brian Murray did some really nice offset flanges for me for my B2s, but this is all welded up and ported out to really big with +3 titanium, and we've got a 2-inch flange coming from Burns that will bolt right to the head. This will be the gasket, and this port will be able to be 2 inches in ID, and the pipe will be 2 1/8 on here. I think Jamie's bike's going to have a 2-inch pipe. Mine's going to have a 2 1/8 on it, and this will be able to flow for first time, but it's a Burns pipe that'll be modified with the flange welded on here. These are engine ideas, y'all, not Milwaukee 8, not Harley Davidson, but engine ideas. If we're going to shove a bunch of air into this engine or ask the good Lord to give us a bunch of barometer through this intake, we're going to create that void by putting a big piston and have it pull down a ton of cubic inches, and a ton of air is going to come in. And then we're going to squeeze it really tight with the high compression pistons. And then we're going to light it, and it's going to go boom, and it's going to make so much pressure in here. We got to give it a lot of room to get out. So I'm not worried about low end power. Listen to me, y'all. If this thing doesn't make power at 2,000, 3,000 RPM, I can't care, because my fast bikes, my 9-second bikes that I have been riding and driving and enjoying in my career, I don't even know what they make below 5,000. But it's a lot. Listen, if you're going to drive around easy like Blue 50 is going to drive around easy at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 RPM at part throttle, even with a 70 millimeter throttle body and a huge cam, it's going to still make, because it's 145 cubic inches, it's still going to make over 140 foot-pounds of torque. That might not be enough for you, but it is enough for me. And when I floor it and the RPM starts going up, I don't care how much the torque falls off. I just want it to stay over here and stay in a nice flat curve as I rev and rev and rev. And I expect this to go 200 horsepower. I think it's overkill for 200. I think this intake port is overkill for 200. I believe this piston is overkill for 200. I believe that the throttle body and the intake manifold is overkill for 200. But listen, I have low goals. The only high goal I have is, at my age, at 68 years old, I want to take this motorcycle and I want to ride it around here in Nashville and go to some bike nights and go to some dyno shootouts and enjoy this motorcycle with, if it has 140 foot-pounds down at 2,000 or 3,000, that's awesome. That'd be awesome. If it has 200 horsepower when it's revved up, I'm going to be really excited, and I'm going to take it to the drag strip. We're going to go quarter mile somewhere, and this old man's going to drive away with a regular throttle, no two-step, and a regular clutch, and I'm going to go, I'm going to foot shift it and crack the throttle, and foot shift it and crack the throttle. And my best ET in my career, my personal best that I've ever gone, this is crazy, y'all. My best I've ever gone with a foot shift is 9.76, and that was on Bagzilla. Before I put the air shifter on it, I went 9.76. Yes, that was a couple years ago. Yes, I was a younger man. I'm in good shape. I feel good. I've been working at it. I want to go better than this on Blue 5.0. So my goal is to go out and run a 975, maybe 140, maybe 145 miles an hour. I don't know, but it's going to be normally aspirated. And when I get my goals and when I go fast as I want to go on it, I'll sell it and I'll do another project. But I got a 2-over swing arm, a beautiful one, billet arm, not billet. It's from Track Dynamics. It's a beautiful arm going here. I have a Busa wheel to go on the back that Mike Beelan set up for me. I have a nice shootout tire over here, one of those Shinkos. And I'm going to leave all the stock stuff on the front. I'm going to leave the stock brake, stock wheel, and tire on there. And it's going to have a black wheel on the back and the 2-over arm. And I'm going to figure out how to go better than a 976 on it, and it's going to be fun. So back to the heads. Let me tell you all about Star Racing and Ron Reese and Mark Fricky and V-Twin Power Sports. If you'll notice, this has the Star Racing logos. The retainers have the Star Racing logos. This is the Star Racing valve train. Since I retired and moved here to Tennessee, I have Mark Fricky has all my stuff at V-Twin Power Sports up in Chicago area. He's doing a great job. If you guys need a set of heads, mail order, you can send your heads to him. He'll send them to Ron, who worked for me for 35 years. He is the guy that ported all my heads for all the years, all the records, all the trophies. He's the one that did so many record-holding heads, and he's still there. He's still got the equipment, and he's still doing what we did together for all those years. Mark Fricky at V-Twin Power Sports is your connection for that. If you want your engine built at around here to put this kind of power together where you can get plus 2.5 valves, go to Moonshine, talk to the Moonshine horsepower, talk to the guys over there. Aaron has helped me a lot. Nick's helped me a lot. Jamie's helped me a lot. But this is a local deal. Also, I want you to know this is an experiment. This is not a product endorsement in a way other than to me to say that this is not going to be normal. This is going to be a very unusual combination. I do not recommend that you use 4/600 bore. I do not recommend you use valves this big. I do not recommend you use chambers this big. And I do not recommend you use pipes this big, because you're going to be mad at what the 2,000, 3,000 RPM power is. And you got to ask me again, do I care? No, I don't care what the low end power is. I don't care what it has at 2,000, 3,000. It's going to be enough. I mean, how much do you need at 2,000? How much do you need at 3,000? 140 foot-pounds ought to be enough. If it's not for you, then you need to put our 30-30 cam in your 143. That ought to make enough low-end power for you. But I'm an RPM guy, man. I always want everything with RPM. This combination right here. This bike was the fastest 98 I ever had in my life, ever seen, because I turned it over 7,000 RPM. Bagzilla, I turned it 8,000 RPM. Buck, I was turning it 7,500. Blue 5.0 with these titanium valves and those big ports and big pipes and big throttle bodies, I'm going to turn it 8,000 RPM. So that's my goal. Beat this time. And I'm going to have fun giving it a shot. Stock crankshaft, GRC, hone the rods out on the big end. Put the clearance in them that we need to be able to turn that kind of RPM. Got it true and straight. Got to run out straight. And this is a set of stock cases that are bored out extremely large. And one more thing I wanted to say about being bored out. This is a factory cast-in void right here. This is a factory cast-in void. This is a factory cast. This is cast in there. So our boring these cases out so big scares people because they're bored out almost a 4-inch 800. But look, there is already a hole under by this stud hole. There's already a hole over here by this stud hole from the factory. So boring these cases out, the only thing I see they did is make it scary on the base gasket. And like I said last week, we had to sign a waiver from Cometic saying that they knew that I agree with them that this gasket will probably fail. If it does, it will be my motorcycle that leaks oil, not yours. I had to sign a waiver on this too, because this is the biggest head gasket they've ever done for a Milwaukee 8, biggest bore head gasket. So it's an experiment, just like these cylinder heads. If you want to try and get you a set of these done, you can call Frankenstein over in Texas and they'll tell you to call Moonshine. It's a deal that Moonshine owns. I wanted to try this big port here. I wanted to try the big port on that side, and I will report here on Tech Talk what happens and how it goes. But I'm not going to be posting these up for sale. You can call and get these. I don't know when they'll be available, but maybe they will one day soon. But that's my little quick story today about this idea of what Blue 50 is going to be. More to come next time, but I just wanted to share with you guys the goals here is to try to run so much of the stock parts that came out of this police bike. I'm going to run these stock parts because I have them and they look beautiful. I'm going to run these stock rods in this 4.375 crank. And I only have this tied up so it won't be clanging around in here. It's just, I'm going to show you so you won't wonder why it's tied up. It's just a cheap stock rod. And I'm not doing it to be cheap. I'm trying to find out what the limits are on all these parts. If I blow it up, I'll be yelling at me. But thank y'all so much for paying attention every week. May God bless y'all in the path of the hurricane. It has friends and family down there. I'm sorry for y'all. I hope that you make it through that deal with the least amount of stress down there. And I am also very thankful for you guys for tuning in here for 165 weeks in a row. That's great. I hope to see y'all guys next Tuesday. Well, I'll have some more good stuff. I'm going to work on it and figure out how to make some more stuff fun to show and talk about and share with this and let you know how it goes. May God bless y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Tech Talk 165 is in the books. And love y'all. Have a great night.